You already know the answer to what drives leaders to exploit the unhappy and unlucky, but accepting it would shatter your worldview. Think about it. Why do you keep doing this to yourself? Why do you let people walk all over you? It's because they understand your desires better than you do. That's what makes it so hard to resist. The foundation of manipulation is rooted in Machiavelli's principles. He knew that people are more likely to follow a leader who can exploit their weaknesses. Historical examples are everywhere. Like Napoleon, who used propaganda to fuel his conquests, or Hitler, who preyed on the fears of the German people. They all knew that the key to power was not to force people to do what you want, but to make them want to do it themselves. The art of manipulation is not about forcing, but about understanding the invisible strings that control human behavior. Think about the last time you felt manipulated. It was likely because someone understood your desires better than you did. You see, when someone can tap into your deepest desires, they can control you. But why do you keep letting them? Why do you keep doing this to yourself? It's like you're a pawn in a game you don't even understand. You're so focused on the short-term gain, the instant gratification, that you don't see the bigger picture. But what if you could see it? What if you could understand the game, and the players and the rules? That's what Machiavelli's principles can teach you. But are you ready to learn? So you want to know what makes leaders exploit the unhappy and unlucky. Your deepest fears and desires are the keys to unlocking your potential, but also the doors to manipulation. Think about it. What do you really want deep down? Is it security, love, or freedom? Whatever it is, that's what they'll use against you. We are all vulnerable to exploitation, not because of our external circumstances, but because of our internal, unmet needs. You see, when you're unhappy or unlucky, you're more likely to grab onto anything that promises to make your life better. And that's exactly what leaders count on: your desperation. They use your emotions against you, playing on your fears and desires like a puppeteer. Imagine you're lost in a forest and someone offers you a map. You'd probably trust them, right? But what if that map leads you deeper into the forest? That's what happens when you're exploited. You're led further away from your goals and closer to theirs. It's like the philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre said, "We are our choices." But what if those choices are influenced by someone else's agenda? Now let's talk about empathy, or the lack thereof. When you're a leader, it's easy to see people as pawns rather than human beings. You start to think that the ends justify the means, and that exploiting others is just a necessary evil. But what if you could see the world from their perspective? Would you still be so willing to manipulate them? The concept of psychological hooks comes into play here. It's like a fishing hook. Once you're caught, it's hard to escape. Your emotions, your desires, your fears. They're all just psychological hooks, waiting to be exploited. And once you're hooked, it's hard to break free. So the next time someone tries to manipulate you, remember that your deepest fears and desires are the keys to unlocking your potential, but also the doors to manipulation. So you're starting to see how leaders can exploit the unhappy and unlucky. But have you ever stopped to think about what drives these leaders to do so? I mean, what's behind their desire for power and control? The line between strength and weakness is often blurred, especially when we refuse to acknowledge our own shadow. You see, when you look at Machiavelli's personal life, you start to notice some interesting patterns. He was a man who struggled with his own vulnerabilities, his own fears and desires. And that's what makes his principles so intriguing. Because when you read between the lines, you start to see that his ideas might be a reflection of his own weaknesses. The true test of leadership is not the ability to manipulate others, but the courage to confront one's own vulnerabilities. Imagine being a leader with the weight of an entire nation on your shoulders. How would you handle the pressure, the stress, the constant scrutiny? You'd have to be incredibly strong or incredibly weak. And that's what Machiavelli's story reveals to us. Now think about the concept of shadow selves in leadership. It's the idea that our repressed thoughts, our darkest fears, can actually shape our decisions. And when you're a leader, those shadows can have serious consequences. So the next time you see a leader exploiting the unhappy and unlucky, remember, it might not be about strength, but about hiding their own weaknesses. So you're starting to see how leaders exploit the unhappy and unlucky. And it's not just about them, it's about us too. The exploitation you see in the world is a reflection of the exploitation you may be ignoring within yourself. Think about it. When you're feeling weak or vulnerable, don't you sometimes try to hide it? You might put on a mask, pretend everything is fine. But what if that mask is not just hiding your weaknesses, but also perpetuating the exploitation of others? The line between personal manipulation and societal destabilization is thinner than we care to admit. You see, when leaders exploit the unhappy and unlucky, it can escalate into broader societal issues. Like the French Revolution, where the exploitation of the poor by the aristocracy led to widespread unrest. Or the Civil Rights Movement, where the exploitation of African Americans by the system led to massive protests. It's like you're playing a game of Jenga, and each block you remove represents a person being exploited. At first, it seems like nothing's happening, but then the whole thing comes crashing down. And that's what happens when we ignore the exploitation within ourselves. We become complicit in the systemic manipulation of others. So what's the next step? Do you keep ignoring the exploitation, or do you start to face your own weaknesses? The choice is yours. But remember, the exploitation you see in the world is a reflection of the exploitation you may be ignoring within yourself. So you're starting to see how leaders exploit the unhappy and unlucky. But have you ever stopped to think about the nature of manipulation itself? It's like the freedom to choose is an illusion, but the illusion is what makes us human. You start to realize that every decision you make is influenced by something or someone. And that's when it hits you. In the game of manipulation, the only constant is the inevitability of being played, and the only question is, by whom? It's a chilling thought that your choices might not be entirely your own. Think about it. Like the ancient Greek philosopher Plato, who said that humans are like puppets controlled by the gods. Or consider the concept of meta-manipulation, where you manipulate the manipulators. It's like A game of chess where you're not just playing the pieces, but also the player. You start to feel a sense of unease, like you're living in a world where nothing is as it seems. And that's when you realize that the exploitation you see in the world is a reflection of the exploitation you may be ignoring within yourself. It's a hard truth to face, but it's one that can set you free. So what will you do when you start to see the world in a different light? So you're starting to see the world in a different light. It's like you can't unsee it, right? The way people are manipulated, the way systems are designed to keep you in line. It's a hard truth to face, but it's one that can set you free. You think about Machiavelli's principles and how they're still used today. The way leaders use psychology to control the masses, to keep them in a state of fear or ignorance. It's chilling. And the worst part is, it's not just governments or corporations doing this. It's also the people around you, the ones you trust. The greatest manipulation is not controlling others, but convincing them they are free. That's what's so insidious about it. You think you're making your own choices, but really, you're just following the path that's been laid out for you. And that's what's so scary. You start to wonder, what else am I being manipulated into believing? What else is being controlled? You realize that the true power of the human spirit lies not in its ability to be manipulated, but in its capacity to resist, to challenge, and to overcome. But that's easier said than done. It takes a lot of courage to question the status quo, to challenge the systems that are in place. So, what will you do when you start to see the world in a different light? Will you continue to follow the path that's been laid out for you, or will you forge your own way? The answer to that question is what will determine your future. And that's what leads us to the next question. What does it take to break free from the cycle of manipulation and forge a path of true autonomy? But answering this reveals a much darker mechanism running in the background. And that's what comes next.